Welcome to Glazed Over,
a podcast for business tips, painting tricks, and gabbing with friends.
We're your hosts, Amy Williams
and Christine Steele, and we're so glad you're here.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I am excited to have on. We were just saying we have our second timer, which I feel like is a pretty good award to win.
I think so.
I don't know what award she'll win, but we have Jaryn Conway on today's episode, and we are going to be discussing Small Business Association and grants. And she is like a wealth of information. Before we started recording, I shared with you two that I don't fully understand all aspects of this. So this will be the like beginner role, asking maybe some really silly questions, but I'm excited to have her here to answer. Jaryn, hello.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Christine. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. I'm so excited because I feel like with grants, it sounds intimidating and you have to like fill out things. Grants, you have to like type up a paper kind of. It sounds scary. So thank you for giving us your brain and making it not sound scary.
Yeah. And it can't be just us, right? Like, have you felt intimidated by grants before, Jaryn? Like, make me feel like you're less superhuman.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the same thing when you had to apply for grants for college, right? I hated doing it. So It's nothing that I still hate doing it, but it's become kind of like this necessary thing. And plus, if you win any or get into any of the programs, there's always a huge benefit. So it's just plugging away, I guess. But I really want to know what I get for being on this twice, like a pin or something, a t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make a pin.
Or maybe like a small crown. Yeah, we'll get you like a little tiara and it says like 2-2 on it or something.
I love that.
Yeah, we'll run that up to the bosses and see what they have to say about that. So, Jaryn, where do you want to start with this? We're really kind of giving you the floor so that you can teach us about these programs and these opportunities and the quote. I'll say it so you don't have to, like, free money that is possibly available to us. Where do you want to begin on this?
Why don't we talk about the SBA first and what the accelerator program that they offer. So the SBA, or the Small Business Association, is something that I think most of us are already aware of if we've ever had to borrow money or anything like that. They're usually the backers for small business loans, but they also have lots of other programs and resources that you can use. They had sent me out, because I was on their email list, something about the Thrive program. So it's a program that they have that's nationwide. And what it is, I think it's like 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks long. I guess I should know how long it is. I did this last year. So it's however many weeks it is long. And in the program, like, you basically rewrite a business plan. So you write a new business plan and they give you all of the tools and resources. There's like Zoom meetings bi-weekly, and then once a month you meet with your cohort to apply. There's a lot of people who apply for the program because it's not super easy to get into. They told me when I applied, there was like 120 people who had applied to it, or businesses who had applied to it. And out of that, they only accepted around 20, give or take. Wow. I think they ended up taking 24 into the program that I was in. And then by the end, only half of the people probably even finish it, because this program is a lot of work.
For some reason, I thought it was like very local. I wasn't thinking this was like national. Isn't that silly? Everyone point and laugh.
No, I was with you on that. So that was only 120 in your area, or was that 120?
Right, that applied to, So in Massachusetts, there was 2 cohorts, one in Boston, which I was a part of, and then one in Springfield, which is like Western Mass. So different states will have a different number, but I think it said there was, I don't even know how many cohorts there was. I think I wrote it down, but there was over 100, because when we would join like the Zoom call, so they would bring in all these experts that would speak about whatever the topic was, whether it was like getting off the ground or finding funding, or if it was like an HR related one, or
cool.
So they would bring in all of these experts and they would speak, and then the people that they brought in were amazing. Like, I learned so much stuff in it was like a 2-hour Zoom listening to the things that they said, like stuff I never even thought of.
That's so cool.
It was really great. And then once a month we would meet in Boston at the Roxbury College, and I would meet with like all the people who were in my cohort. So it'd be all different kinds of businesses. So not just art businesses. There was a couple art related ones, but there were like electricians and plumbing businesses and security businesses and some kind of, restaurants and stuff like that, bakers. So all these different people, and you would meet with them and talk about, challenges that you were having. And then every month when you would meet, there would be a topic and it would relate back to you writing your new business plan. And you'd
That's
have
really cool.
yeah, and
That
then
is really
then
neat.
there would be like an online school too. So you'd go online and you'd fill out all of these things and listen to stuff and read things. It was kind of like being in college for like a semester or whatever. It really was, with all the stuff
Yeah.
that they had, all in learning on how to be, a better business owner and the things that you could do.
That networking, has that helped you like with having other people around in your group? Did that help you make any connections? I don't know, like if you had a coffee shop or something like that that you could kind of work with, did that do anything for you?
We definitely made connections. People who I still talk to who are in the program. There's only a couple businesses that were right in my area, but people who I could see that I could do something with in the future. I was with a couple of them. I signed on to like a kind of like how we did the mastermind thing. So I did that with a couple of them afterwards. It's just to have other
Nice.
business people to go over information with. And, even though we all had different kinds of businesses, we all struggle with the same issues, whether it's like employees or how to
Sure.
drive sales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what
So-
was the application process for this particular program, which again is called Thrive? What is that like?
I believe I had to submit something to them. And there was an application that I had to fill out with like questions that I had to answer. Then I had to do like a phone call interview.
Oh.
And then I think I had to do
That's
like a Zoom
crazy.
interview.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I got into it. And then in the end, with everything that we did, we went into the federal building in Boston and then into the SBA offices, and we did like a capstone presentation. So we presented to like a panel of people what our goals were and like, how we were thinking to achieve it and all of this stuff. And we had like, we did like a PowerPoint with it, and it was great. Like it was terrible to have to speak in front of people, but it was great because I got a lot of feedback on the things that I was thinking of doing, and all from business leaders and stuff. So that was great.
I'm checking out the website right now, and it looks like it is a 6-month program. So it was 8 weeks.
Yep.
And we're talking about things being intimidated. They make it really easy. It feels
Do
like
they?
to
Nice.
I would like to try this. It does. It
Yeah.
seems like a lot of work, but it seems like
It
the
is.
payoff is
It is.
incredible.
It's definitely a lot of work. You have to be able to have like 4 to 6 hours a week, I would say, to
Wow.
dedicate towards it, which I know, time sometimes is the hardest thing, but it is worth it afterwards. Obviously, what you get out of anything is what you put into it. And if you put in the work, you get a lot out of it.
Sure.
I was just going to say that if you're not able to show up for your business 4 to 6 hours to help it grow, though, you hear people say if you treat your business like a hobby, it's going to not do as well as if you treat it like a business. Does that make I mean, if I use those words, I don't know how they actually say it, but you need to put that time in there so that way then your business can grow so that it's worth it.
I think many of us are flying by the seat of our pants, and there is something very comforting about like having a plan. At least for me, that's how I feel most prepared to the idea that like going into it, that you have to put in this amount of work in. It feels doable, but worth it, and like a lot of work. And the
Absolutely.
payoff is there though. Can you think of like one takeaway from one of these experts that stuck with you?
Oh, honestly, there were so many things. I listened to and joined, and I really liked when the CCSA was doing kind of, like Zoom meetings when we would go over things and stuff. And it's just like going to convention and talking to people, like there's so
Sure.
many nuggets. One of the first speakers that they had brought in, all she talked about was kind of like a work-life balance and like the
Wow.
things that you need to do for yourself. And you know what I mean? That you can't just keep going and putting everything you have into it and not taking time for yourself and your family because you'll burn out. I think a lot of us have experienced that burnout. That was a great way to start the program. And a lot of the things that she talked about, I still try to practice today because being a business owner and, a mom, I think that's one of the things that I don't do is make time for myself.
Can you think of a tip that she
that
gave
was
you?
good.
Because now I need the tip.
Because a lot of it is setting limits on your time, and I know, Amy, you try to do that, like of just when you're working and when you're not working. I have a hard time with that. I feel like I'm just always working, I think that's was the main thing was setting. I never thought like of setting like a time thing, like, between these hours a work thing or just answering your emails once a day. I'm
Right.
like, once a day, like I have
I
too
know.
many emails,
I have
but
to share this. This is so silly. Michaela that works at As You Wish, she sent me a text recently and she said, I've got this really great newsletter that's about marketing. Do you check your email at least once a week? And I said, once a week? I'm like, what do you mean? I check it like 16 times an hour. I can't get over the question of being like, are you at least paying attention to your email once a week? Anyway, yeah,
That's so
that's
funny.
the boundaries. You're right. That's like a huge part of caring for yourself.
And teaching your customers that you're putting up boundaries too. I
yes.
love social media, but I feel like they think that they have an instant access to you. And I mean, just this morning, I made a comment to someone. They're like, I sent you a DM, check your messages. I responded, I have an office day actually today. I will get back to you. I said, I'm so sorry. Sometimes I don't check this daily because I'm either teaching a class, I'm working on the floor at the studio, or I am with my family. And I put that out for the world to see because you're not going to shame me into not looking at my messages. I'm going to tell you that I have boundaries. So I think
Mm,
that's important too, is teaching them. But
yeah.
Right, that you're not always available
yeah,
at any time. Yeah, because once they get used to you being available at any time, I think people
Yeah, it's
slowly
hard
take
to walk it
advantage of
back.
that.
So this process feels like more than just filling out a form and submitting it and like hoping that you get picked, talking about the Zoom interview and kind of being on the phone and pitching yourself to these people. Do you have any advice on or tips or techniques or whatever for standing out in that process? Be
I,
yourself. Is that
Well,
is that the answer?
that is what I was gonna say. That is literally what I was gonna say
I could
because
tell.
it's really important to be yourself. You know what I mean? Like I think if you try to be something that you're not or try to do something, to make yourself stand out, you're really putting yourself in the category of being like anyone else. Like the more genuine I think that you are and the more open you are to discussion, the better. That's another thing too, is about being open because they're gonna ask you, these questions that you're gonna be like, oh, I don't want to answer this. But
Yeah.
you just try to be as forthcoming as you can, obviously within limits. You don't want to give everything away, but the more genuine that you talk about your business and yourself, I think the more they think you're going to do it. I think what they're really trying to suss out when they're talking to you, and this is with the SBA, I think they want everybody to go through this program. I think because
Mm,
they're there, like the SBA is really there to support the community and small businesses. And if they don't have small businesses to support, then they're not there. But what
right.
they want to really suss out in that interview is that you're going to complete the program, that this is
Sure.
something that you really want to do and something that you'll find beneficial in doing it. So if you're talking about it like, well, I don't really have the time for this and I don't have the time for this, well, then they're not going to pick you. But if
Sure.
you're
Mhm.
saying that this is something that I really want to do, this is information that I think will really help me to grow, and that you're really dedicated to your business and making it better. And you're willing to put in the time to work on your business instead of just in your business.
Running a small business can sometimes feel isolating, but with CCSA, you're never alone. As a member of the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association, you'll be a part of a supportive community of studio owners just like you. Our forums, events, and annual convention give you the chance to connect, share ideas, and collaborate with other passionate business owners in the fine arts world. Join CCSA and tap into a network that understands your business challenges and is ready to help you succeed. Visit www.ccsaonline.com and get connected today.
Yeah. How did you manage that? Like, how did you juggle the time commitment? Because it is, I'll be honest with you, like more than I expected you to say.
I think maybe even before I got accepted, like I talked to everyone on my team and I told them that this was something that I was going to do and that I needed some of my employees. And, obviously I had to pay them for more hours to be in the studio more. And then I had to talk to Cynthia about it and what it meant and if she thought that it was something that we could do. And I kind of really felt like it was something that we had to do. I hate to always bring up COVID, but everything changed so much since COVID. And it
Yeah.
was really trying to get us out of this stagnant state of where we were. And I think as I talked in the podcast last time, I've only been working full time in the studio for like maybe 3 years now. So it
Mhm.
was kind of also like, okay, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to commit to this, like I really have to do this. And I really have to learn everything I can with the stuff that I struggle with. And I have to
So,
know when to give it to other people.
so that's going to lead me to like a question that, in your opinion, I'm like a one person business. Christine has a really small team. Is this a program that we maybe wouldn't get the most out of until we had a more robust support system in the studio? Or do you think it's possible for such a small team to like support me through this program?
I think that if you really want to grow your business, and I think if you really want to have goals that you want to reach, then you have to be willing to put in that time to get there because it's not going to just happen because you think it's going to happen. I went to grad school while I was working full time, and that was really hard. And this is how I was looking at it before I did the program. I did that, and it was really hard because I was working 50 hours a week or more at that time. And then I also was taking classes for grad school. It's something like, but I also really wanted to have my degree. So if it's something that you really want, then you're going to do it. If you want your business to be successful and grow, then it should be something that you're willing to put the time into.
After finishing the program, have you seen an improvement on your business? Like, have you seen that you have taken what you have learned and applied it? Did it make a difference in your business?
Yes. I don't think I could pinpoint exactly what, because after taking that program, I actually did a couple other ones as well, because I saw the value in doing it. If anything, it just constantly makes you think about what you're doing well, what you need to improve on, like what processes could change, things that you need to think about. So I think overall, I've grown as a person in doing this because
awesome.
I've grown like as a person and how I look at things and how I look at the business. My business has gotten better because of it. How I treat my employees, I think I've gotten better. How I think about things when it comes to like customer issues, I think I'm better. That whole thing, like, the more you know, the more you grow.
Mm-hmm. And how many of us went to school for business? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a lot of people that actually, when they were asked as a senior in high school, what do you want to do when you grow up? They say, I want to own a PYOP studio. I think a lot of times there's other backgrounds. If you did go to school, I think this is a great opportunity. I'm gonna have to look into it. That's awesome.
You mentioned some other programs that you started to prioritize after the Thrive process. How did you find those programs?
The other programs were kind of how when I was started looking at grants, and even in the SBA, they talk about applying for grants and they talk about how to get money and how to get funding and all of that stuff. And then I think I was telling you before, I think Megan Supple had posted a grant opportunity in Chatter, and then I had applied to it. And then I don't remember which one she had done, if it was through like the Hello Alice or the LISC or some of the other ones.
Yeah, she's in there pretty often dropping opportunities in, which is great. I've also seen Louise. I actually, full disclosure, I don't know how to say Louise's last name. Does anyone on the call know how to say?
I don't confidently want to answer that question. Not at all. Absolutely.
Louise, write in if you're listening, but I do notice that she has dropped in several grant opportunities as well in Chatter.
Yeah.
On her Facebook page. So, yeah.
Right. So I've just followed those and I started applying to them, and then I signed up for the email list, or I'm just checking them. And then I started making a part of like, my work to-do list. So, once a month I'll sit down, because usually like when they post grants and stuff, you have like a month or two. And so I'll have like one day where I sit down and I'll kind of like apply to like a bunch of grants that I'm eligible for. Sometimes with those grants or other accelerator programs or other programs, like I completed one through, let me see, I wrote it. It's called, I'm probably not going to say this right either because I'm really bad at this, but it's like Action Opportunity Fund. How would you say ACCION?
ACCION. Axion?
Axion, that might be it. Opportunity Fund. And
you're asking the person with another thick accent on the call to try to
I don't think
pronounce
accent
something.
Matters.
That's
I think
so
it's
funny.
more of
I'm just terribly dyslexic. Yeah, and I don't. That's not.
Yeah, dyslexia, Boston, deep Southern accent. Yeah, what a wild ride.
So we'll just say AOF because I think that's what they kept calling it. There we go. But that was another one that was offered through one of those other sites, and I got into that program. It is an accelerator program, and then at the end of the accelerator program, I got a $5,000 grant. That was
How long
fantastic.
did that program last?
That one was shorter. I think that was 6 weeks.
Do you have to say what you plan to use the money for in this kind of stuff?
They ask you and you kind of write in what you would use it for if they gave it to you.
I think that's helpful. Like sometimes when I get a chunk of money, I'm like, I can think of like 10 different ways to spend it. And then I end up just like trying to do that and it doesn't work. So I like if you have to sort of like say, okay, you know, I'm going to buy pottery wheels or I'm going to build out the kiln room or whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of like whatever your goal is. Like I know, when we talked about doing the will program, like, so if you wanted to apply to grants and say, I want to add this to my studio, like you could get a grant for that.
That's cool.
And the grant process, you know, obviously there's a lot more people applying for the grants because everybody wants money. And when you're trying to look for different places to find this information, obviously the SBA does have like other places where you can go to for grants. I think I mentioned like the LISC, which is Local Initiative Support Corporation. They send out an email with grants and other things. Hello Alice is a big one. And Founders First, CDC. Those are the ones that I look at probably more than anything else. But once you start looking for them, you'll find more. Verizon right now has like a grant that they're running. In order to even apply for that grant, you have to like complete a couple classes. Then you can apply for it. But like all of these companies, you know, like FedEx has a grant that I just applied for, like all of these companies to do good, right? They're going to give back. All these large companies want to give back to the smaller companies. So there is a lot of money out there, a lot of money that gets put aside for people.
I also find, you know, with so much of our industry being queer, the month of June, there's always a ton of opportunities. And I mean, that goes for any, you know, minority. You can always find one out there.
As a woman, you're a minority.
Exactly.
So there are lots of ones for women business owners. And yeah, there's lots of like for all different kinds of like it's like applying for grants for college. There's so many niche things that you can find and apply to.
And are you finding these ones through like FedEx or Verizon? Is that through the LISC or is that just because you are trained now to find it?
The FedEx one is you go on Hello Alice. Actually, I think both of them have it listed. That's the thing too.
You know what?
Yeah,
Let me
I got the email.
I don't know what Hello Alice is. I was going to try to pretend through this whole episode that I know what it is.
It's just another place that sources grants for companies. And they also have things on their website that you can go to, like if you want to find out, like, you know, how your business rates and how to, like, they do like a business assessment score. I actually am in an accelerator program with them right now, sponsored by Wells Fargo. I will tell you, I'm not doing that one.
How many programs are you in? Okay.
Well, right now I'm just in that one, and I'm not doing a good job at being a part of it because I've been in a few other ones, and I'm not really finding much. Well, they don't always tell you when they're going to start when you're applying, and I applied to this one like a year ago. So
you got to kind of play the long game with these a little bit sometimes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes when you apply, they won't tell you for like a few months on whether you got in or not. Also, because they give like sometimes like a month or a few months to apply for them. So then they close them and then they'll have so many submissions, and sometimes they'll accept more than one person. So then you have to wait. Sometimes it's like 6 months before you know.
With all the applying that you've done, right? With all the experience that you've had, what are some common questions you're answering? What information are you having to give? If you're talking to two people that have never really done this before, what do we have to kind of pull before we sit down to apply to these grants? I know it's all different.
The questions that they ask are really tailored to what the grant is for. So like I applied to a bunch of the Pride ones that came out, and a lot of the stuff that they're going to talk about is like, how is your business, you know?
Right.
And I say very gay. And then I get it. No.
Of course. Done.
And more funny. Of like, how is it inclusive, and like, how do you give back to the community and stuff like that? They're all very different, but what I do to make it easier for myself so I don't have to just rewrite answers the whole time is every time I fill out an application or, you know, a proposal, grant, or whatever it is, I keep a list of how I answered the questions before. A lot of the same questions, like in a lot, you know, one of the questions is like, you know, describe your business, you know, like, okay, I'll keep those and then I can refer back to them and then copy and paste those answers. So I'm not constantly rewriting the same information. And I do it as I'm going. I will tell you, this is a really great hint because at first I was just doing it and submitting and then thinking they were going to send me a copy of my application and they don't. So I started as I'm writing it, I keep a Word document open where I write down, I copy all the questions and put down the answers. So that way I have it going forward.
Yeah, that's smart too, because something could shut down, should go crazy. Like you could lose all your answers, and I would just throw my phone across the room and never try to apply again. So that's
actually,
smart.
that happened to me once. And I just said, forget it. I'm not doing it.
That's so funny.
I give up because I was like at the end and then realized that it wasn't saving it as I went and I wasn't saving my answers either. So
Ugh,
that was,
awful.
yeah. And then some of them will ask you to do like a short video things. I haven't done those yet. I think I did it once because I didn't want to, but I probably should because it would be worth it. And that grant was actually a lot of money. The application was very, very long.
Yeah, it seems like probably the more money you get, the more effort it takes to apply.
Yes.
I would also encourage, I mean, not to use AI for these answers, but to put your words to proof them. You spell check. You make sure English is well. That wasn't good.
It's
that
sounding
was right
good. Yeah,
that was that was
maybe you
on
run
that
that
one
one through AI.
Yeah, let me put this through AI, and then I'll get back to you on that. But I think making sure you don't have any spelling errors would be super important because you're asking these people to support you, but you're not sounding professional. So I think that is also something that's important, especially because again, we're artsy people. We will put in words that make us sound, like little adjectives and that kind of stuff just to make it sound fun. But we don't always. I mean, okay, it's personal.
You mean
I
we
don't always
don't
speak.
sound
Yeah,
very
spell
smart all the
check.
time?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
listen, I'm
terrible
struggling
speller.
with just saying this stuff. Yeah, so I think that we just take some time because my brain moves faster than my little fingers can type, so I forget words.
Yeah,
Same.
sometimes, I mean, I will use AI, not for like my answers, but I'll use AI to organize my thoughts on how I want to answer things. So I'll put in like all of the things that I'm thinking or all the things that I want to say, and then I'll ask AI to kind of put it in a better order so I can just brain dump onto it.
Exactly.
You'd want to be really careful using AI and making sure that if you use it for some of the things to rechange it, that you're looking at some of those other ones so you can check to see if does this sound like AI?
Yeah,
exactly.
So you can sound more like yourself.
Yeah, that's smart to kind of put it in there as like arrange these thoughts. I have started to do that with my book reviews. I know this is like not the same thing, but I'll say like, oh, I need to write this book review. What questions do you need to know from me? And they'll ask me questions and then I'll answer them and then they'll kind of put it in order. And then it helps me just see the structure of like how they would answer. And I feel like that's like half the battle, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Cool.
I use AI a lot for a lot of things. And it's mostly just so I can organize what it is that I want to do. Especially for me, like, well, and this is totally off topic too, but when I write emails, like I tend to be like, really, like if they ask me this question, I answer that question. And I'm very direct. And I've realized it comes off kind of dry or like I'm being snippy or something. And I'm not. I'm like, this is the information you want. I'm going to get it to you right away.
Yeah,
so
you're
AI,
just from Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So AI fluffs it up for me a little bit and makes me sound nice.
You need all the help you can get, huh?
You know what?
That's so funny.
So let's talk about some success stories. Tell me a little bit about the American Dream Award for Inclusive Excellence. Seems like you got some money for that.
I did. That was the first, besides the SBA program, the SBA program was the first thing I got into. And it was kind of like once I got into that, I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. And then that was the first grant that I received. So I've only received 2 grants, that one and then the one that I just got. So I won't say that I'm like overly successful and I'm like, can quit my job and just apply for grants or anything like that. But $6,000 is really helping me out this year,
that rules. Is this your first year with grants?
Yes. Yeah. I've only just started doing this. Like anything else, it definitely takes time.
I think it's inspiring though, that like this is your first year doing this thing. It like makes me feel like, oh, I can start. If you had been like, oh, I've been doing this for a decade, then I'd be sort of like, oh, well, I'm not allowed to do that yet. So what is the American Dream Award for Inclusive Excellence? Is this one of the Pride Awards?
It wasn't one of the Pride ones. It was the American Dream. They had a whole bunch of different categories that you could win for. And this was one of the categories. And you had to pretty much decide which one you wanted to apply to. So this was the one that I had applied to.
How did you choose that one?
I think my business does a really good job at welcoming people of all different backgrounds into it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of our studios are like that. at that time when I had applied to it, we were getting a lot of feedback and Google reviews of people just talking about what a safe place our place was and how they felt when they came into the studio. That wasn't like something that we intentionally did. I think it was just something that, came from just trying to be nice.
Are you ready to stay ahead of the curve in the fine arts industry? Look no further than CCSA Today, our quarterly magazine packed with business insights, industry trends, and operational tips tailored specifically for fine arts studio owners like you. Whether you prefer the printed or digital version, each issue of CCSA Today is full of valuable content to help you run a more efficient, profitable, and creative studio. You'll find everything from the latest business strategies to inspiring seasonal designs that keep your customers coming back for more. Don't miss out on this must-have resource. Become a member of the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association and get CCSA Today delivered right to your mailbox or inbox. Learn more at ccsaonline.com.
I think it's cool that sometimes we get like too close to something and we can't always like properly assess what we're good at or what our strengths are. So it's nice that you had this backup from customer reviews to just sort of like confirm that you are doing the thing that you want to do. You know what I mean? That's cool.
Yeah. I think the other part is that when Cynthia and I first had the business, we weren't, always telling people that it was our business and that, that we were gay.
Yeah.
And I think as we got more comfortable or as we had customers that were more long-term and stuff, then we just started making it. It's just something that we were telling everybody. Not like, not like in a weird way, but just like in a,
you mean
we weren't like hiding it or
right.
or avoiding the topic or anything like that. So I think that made it, other people felt more comfortable being like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the kind of place that I want to go.
Tell me about the second one, which is called, is it the Creators Momentum Business Accelerator? Is that your second grant?
The second one was the Acton or the whatever that A show.
Oh, the word that we decided we wouldn't talk about again.
Yeah.
And you got $5,000 for that one. That's
yes.
Nice chunk
and that
of
one,
change.
oh yeah. And that was the same one. That was the name of it, the Creators. And so that one was actually really cool because everybody in that program was creative in some way. So there was a bunch of people who were had like art studios or jewelry places or glass fusing places. There was filmmakers, directors.
That's so cool.
Beauty salons, like nail places, anything that was even like slightly creative. So there was all businesses that were like that. And that was what the whole proposal, the accelerator thing was for people like that you applied to. So obviously right up my alley. And so when we applied to that, they didn't even tell us that we were going to get a grant with it. It was just an accelerator program. And when I had applied to this, I had just finished the SBA, or it was a little while after I finished the SBA. And I was still thinking about how much I enjoyed that program. And then this one was very much like on a smaller scale, but had a lot of the same attributes as that one did. So I had applied for it. And then the first day of us applying it, they said, if you finish this program, you will get a $5,000 grant. And I was like,
and you're
this
like,
is
got
amazing.
it. I will be there.
Yeah. I'm like, I will finish.
Yeah. And is any of that process in person or is you know what I mean? Is it hybrid?
Yeah, this one was not in person. So this one was also people all across the country. There was a bunch of people from California that were in my group. So then they divided people up by different cohorts again, or different groups. And so there was 10 people in my group and we would meet once a week on Zoom and there would be some topic that we would discuss and then we would all talk together. And then we had a moderator who would kind of lead the discussions and stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I
wish CCSA would do something cohort based like that.
That would be nice.
They did have the masterminds. I don't know if they're still doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I wonder what happened to that.
Yeah. At that
I don't
time,
know. I was in one and I think that we would meet every once in a while, but I think that it just kind of fizzled. We didn't.
It'd be cool if we could hook up with another association that's adjacent. So that way you have some accountability from a different
that would
type
be nice.
of business.
I think what helps a lot of these programs move forward are the people that are you really need somebody a director, someone who's driving the conversation. So this one, like I said, we'd have somebody on the Zoom who would kind of push the conversation forward or get us back on topic, whatever it was. And also make sure everybody was speaking, or had a turn to speak. And then you had, when I was in the SBA program, we had a person who when I would go to the classes once a month. there was that person, I forget what his title would have been, but like kind of like a mentor, but also like a leader. And he was like, he did like business coaching and stuff. And he had a really good resume, like worked for a bunch of big companies and had a bunch of companies of his own. And he was, really smart and like knew what he was talking about, could really like push the conversation. And it wasn't like he was giving us all the answers, but he was like, helping us figure out those on our own.
Mhm.
And then he's the one who, after when I finished, I did have him as a coach for a little bit. And he was a really great person, just tons of knowledge, like things that you don't even think of. He'd be like, well, have you ever looked at it like this? And I'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
no.
that different
Thank you,
perspective.
yeah.
Sort of related to this, do you do any work with your local Chamber of Commerce?
I am a part of it, but I don't participate.
I'm the same way. And they actually have a 6-month program or 6 week or something like that
Yeah.
where they do, it sounds very similar. So that's actually, I wrote that down that I need to look
Yeah,
into
I
that a
think
little bit too.
I believe there is like a mentorship with retired business owners that could
Mhm.
that they pair you with, and that's something I've also been meaning to look into. We really need to be accountability partners on a lot of this stuff to make sure that
Yes.
we're doing it. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, not to derail us, but I guess like what's like a piece of advice to kind of like get us near the end of this episode? Like if we're really starting out for the first time, like how do we narrow it down? How do we look for this stuff? Like how do we get past the idea that we might not get it? So what's the point? What advice can you give us to sort of inspire us to start doing this?
Well, like I was saying before, with those couple different places, like even if you just went on to Hello Alice and it started there. It's just starting. It's just starting
Yeah.
to look and starting to see what's out there. But like you said, like your Chamber of Commerce, a lot of places like within your area will have resources on how to look for grants or sites of listing. Like I know I went to so I'm obviously in Massachusetts. Like I went to the Massachusetts Small Business and looked there to see what they had for resources for small business grants and stuff. And I got a few links from there. So there's tons and tons of places that you can go or just to start. I would also say, like, if you're wondering if it's going to be worth it for you or not, is that if you're listening to this and you go to the CCA convention or any of the things that we have, and if you think about the information that you gain from networking with other people who have businesses like you. Now think about that knowledge that you get, and now think about what you would get if you talk to other business owners who ran, because we all like having a business, like there's a lot of things that you share, like I said earlier. So think about all the knowledge that you're going to gain from all those other perspectives, because they're not looking at it as in like, that we're an art business and, and we're selling pottery. They're looking at it, they're selling whatever it is that they're selling, whether it's their service or product.
Yeah, and you're
what
also
that
not in
looks like from
competition
them.
with them in
Yeah,
a way that you
absolutely.
might
Yeah,
be
so
somewhere else.
exactly. So you can disclose more because you're not worried that they're going to copy what you're doing.
Mhm.
That's
That's
very
very true.
interesting. I feel very
You could
inspired.
even talk to some local business owners and just have like a monthly tea or a coffee and just talk about some things. You don't even have to go to a big scale. You can kind of like zone it in where it's just sometimes it's just nice to talk to business owners that just get it.
Yeah, but sometimes it's kind of like, well, how do you find those people? And like, yeah, you can do your
Exactly.
Chamber of Commerce, if there's like a business association, if there's, I'm trying to think what other things, like there's definitely more groups and stuff locally, but sometimes it's nice having national ones because then they're not even in your area. Like you really don't have to
Yeah.
worry about what you tell them, especially like, for me, like I live in a pretty dense place, but if you're in a rural place and you're trying to talk to other business people, then, I don't know, everyone might know your
Right.
business and you might not be wanting to share.
Oh, that's
So
true. That is true.
Yeah,
something
and
like national wide might be nice too.
and not to be like Instagram girly in the chat, but there are a lot of online business service providers that pop up that create this kind of community. So it's like essentially the same thing. It's not necessarily sanctioned by like a small business association or like a grant or something, but you can really like find community through like a membership for people offering like marketing help, or there's so many different people out there. So that's a good idea. I think it all comes down to this accountability, right? Like whether it's to a grant or an application or this cohort or whatever it is, that we need someone to make sure that we're following through. Now that's just me like looking in the mirror saying that to myself.
Yes. Well, no, I think we definitely need to do that. But also when you need help and you don't even know that you need help, or you don't even know that something could be easier, or you're not even looking at it the right way.
That's so true.
I mean, sometimes I see some of like the posts that people have in Chatter, And I think about like the issues that they're having and how like it's always the same stuff, right? Like we all talk about the same problems that we're having, but sometimes it's nice to have a different perspective on when you're thinking about how to deal with it.
Everybody's got different experience. Well, Jaryn, what grants are you applying for or have you applied for that you're excited about?
I applied to one. I applied to that FedEx one. I mean, I'm always excited about the ones I get that, where I get money. Those ones I'm excited about.
That would be my favorite too.
Or once you have, I mean, really like anything, any resource that someone is giving you for free is amazing, and even if so even the one that I just told you that I'm in right now, that I'm not participating as much as I normally would, I still get stuff from it. Like if I get one or two things from it that I didn't have before, it's still worth it. Or if I meet somebody or I talk to somebody, like in the SBA, one of the people that they brought in was a bank person, like somebody who worked for like a large bank and about getting loans. And they were like a SBA lender, specialized SBA lender. And so I talked to her, and I'm probably going to use her when for the next loan that I need, something I'm working on that I want to do. Just making connections. There was another person who was like an HR person who I've, reached out to, being like, hey, I'm having this issue. Like, you know what I mean? And sometimes they'll help you. Sometimes you got to pay them for it. But sometimes it's nice to know who to pay to get the information if that's what you need to do.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jaryn. I feel like you have kind of demystified this process for us a bit and made it, we keep saying intimidating, but it can feel that way. Like when you open up a link and it's this long application process, but you've made me definitely feel like I can do it. Christine, how are you feeling about this process?
You did. You make me feel a little bit at ease. And I think that the imposter syndrome comes in a lot too. When you fill out these and they're asking you business questions, you're like, well, I just, personally, I'm like, well, I'm a paint studio. Like I help people be creative and do all that kind of stuff. And I think that the business mindset is you have to switch it a little bit. So thank you for today.
Well, Jaryn, any final words?
Do it. No, I don't know.
Get that free money.
That feels pretty good to me. Nice. Well, thank you again for coming on, and everyone listening. Everyone listening, thanks for spending, this hour with us. And if you have any questions, I'd say drop it into chatter, and there's always someone there, I think, willing to kind of lend some advice. And as always, it's great to spend this time with y'all, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Glazed Over is brought to you by the CCSA, the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association. Thank you to our moderators, Amy Williams and Christine Steele. Intro and outro music by Scott Lester. Executive production by Louise Blazucki. Learn more about the CCSA at ccsaonline.com.